Hello, beautiful people. I hope you're doing extremely well. Have you ever felt that you're not meant for each other, or you saw somebody that you felt like they're not meant for each other, or you felt, oh my god, they were so perfect for each other? What happened? I mean, why did they have to split? If you're wondering about these things, I just would like to give you a small example. So let's say Daisy, the one I usually use for an example. So Daisy was in a relationship with somebody called Dom, D-O-M. Now, things ended between them, and Daisy was crazily, madly, deeply in love with him. Dom was her everything. Dom was blessed to have Daisy actually, but things ended between them. Dom could not be the same person over the years, and he ended the relationship with Daisy. Now, Dom had probably made up his mind a very long time ago. But for Daisy, she was still in love with Dom. And so, she just accepted the fact that this thing has ended because there was nothing else to do. She couldn't do anything, she couldn't change things. So she accepted the fact. But all the trauma from Dom remained with her. It had made a huge hole inside her heart. And so a few years passed, and she's already working on her healing journey. But her healing journey is not easy because the intensity of the things that she went through with Dom is something only she can tolerate. Like, she cannot even speak about it to people, she cannot explain it to people. It's that deep and horrible. So now what happens is Daisy reconnects with one of her friends called David after a few years, and they were friends already for like what 10 plus years or something. They're friends for a decade and they know each other really well. So eventually they end up getting into a relationship with each other. They start liking each other and somehow they fit together, like things work out between them. And I would not describe it as truly madly deeply in love, but I would say it was love, but it was still different. But to Daisy, it did not feel like the way it felt with Dom. I mean, she wasn't comparing it, but the feelings do not lie. This is for whoever's listening, feelings do not lie. And she kept on convincing herself, like, yeah, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And if somebody catches themselves convincing themselves in a relationship that their partner is good for them, I think that is like a secret red flag. Like, something is going on, but you are too scared to confront it. And then this is again for whoever's listening, if this helps you. If you or anyone that you know is like, you know, convincing themselves like, oh no, everything is fine. That's just how it is. It's everything is fine. I'm just feeling this, I'm just feeling this. Like, that's a sign. Now, David is a very good person, and Daisy is a very good person too. And you know, they're perfect in many different ways. And but Daisy is somebody that feels a little too much. She's an empath. She feels things. She understands things with greater clarity. Her intuition is on point. And but she has had a difficult childhood, and she had to go through a lot of different challenges in her adulthood. So she has a dent in her heart, a hole. She holds some pain in her heart. Whereas David is somebody that had a beautiful childhood. And so, as a result of his beautiful childhood, he cannot experience all the things that Daisy does. Now Daisy has a perspective because she lived a certain kind of life, and David has a kind of perspective because he lived a certain kind of life. Now, what's happening is one person is too deep into things and deep into life, too much into trauma. I mean, she's been through so much. So what happens is, if in the long term Daisy and David happen to be together, what would happen eventually is, their life would end up in chaos, because David is somebody that likes to see things from a surface level. Like, he won't go deep into things. He doesn't like going deep into things. He sees things from a surface level. He likes to experience beautiful things in life, like good things in life. He's not a narcissist. He isn't a narcissist. Okay? And he likes the good things about life. Whereas Daisy, she would have expected him to understand her better emotionally. Now, what happens is, since David lived a certain kind of life, he cannot relate to Daisy in every way. If Daisy says, I feel anxious, I feel depressed, or like, I faced too much trauma, trauma does this to me, that to me, it affects me physically, mentally, emotionally. Now, David is trying to help her, David is trying his best to support her, but it does not last too long. David has to like give up somehow. But because if they got married or in a long term relationship, they would have to do the same thing. You know what I mean? Because Daisy holds unhealed emotions within her. And as long as she doesn't heal herself, David has to keep, you know, dealing with the same version of herself, the same version of Daisy. And he's also tired because he wants to see the brighter side of life. And Daisy is somebody who's still healing. She's taking baby steps towards healing. And even when everything is perfect, they're amazing friends. Like, they understand each other really well. Like, they can speak about different things. But when it comes to emotions and hidden emotions, Daisy and David are not meant to be. And emotions mean everything to Daisy. You know, for Daisy, if something is not from the heart, then it means nothing to her, because she's somebody that is always listening to her heart. She's brave like that. Now she's experienced so much trauma that she's okay with feeling things. And David is somebody, he cannot feel a lot. Probably the deeper emotions scare him. Daisy's death scares him. Now, so somehow, even they end their relationship, and once again they just end up being friends. They're good friends. What I mean by this is, when we're with somebody, things look perfectly okay. We feel like we could have worked through things. But the reality is not this, honestly, because you have not seen the tomorrows. And there are things about this person, there are things about yourself that may not work out in the long term. Because initially when you're in a relationship, everything is new. And the newness of things and the excitement and the happiness, covers all the other things that goes unnoticed. And when, there's a longer time that you've been together, you've spent years together, you're in a marriage or something, slowly, you start, as this newness starts fading away, all these things that's hidden start to come to the surface. And as they come to the surface, it's difficult for either of you to deal with these things, because that person does not have the same amount of emotional maturity as you have. And you might not understand certain things that they feel, because you feel like, you're a little emotionally braver than them, so you feel those things. And moving forward in life, your life would have ended up in chaos, because you're not meant for each other. Now, for David, somebody who is like him or understands him, or who has the same vision as him, she's the person that's going to match him, in his energy. And somebody that's extremely nurturing, understanding, kind, caring, wise is going to probably be a good match for Daisy, because that's the kind of person she is. Opposites do attract, but if, from the external everything is good, but within the heart, if the emotions are not felt in a right way, it's not reciprocated in a right way, That's where you feel like, in the long term you cannot exist together. So I just want to say this: when something passes you by, when you feel like we were perfect with each other, we were perfect for each other, and why did these things happen? Like we could have worked on it, we could have talked about it. Sometimes working and talking doesn't work. It's only going to ruin your life, because the longer you experience pain and trauma, the bigger hole is in your heart, like an emotional space that's empty. And what I want to say is, the more you experience these kind of things, the more longer your healing journey takes. And you never know, after a point of time, after a certain relationship, it changes you in many different ways. Now, for another example, when things ended between Daisy and Dom, right? Dom was her previous ex. She too thought the same thing, because she had never experienced a love like that. She never experienced a love like that. She's crazy in love with Dom, right? She was crazy in love with Dom. So she thought, she spent many years thinking, why? But we were so good. Like, we were perfect for each other. We were like one in a million. There's no one else that can replace me in that relationship. There's no one else that can replace him in that relationship. But slowly and surely she realized that he never wanted to be there with her in the first place, because you know he married someone else. He married someone else. He was a coward in many different ways. He betrayed her. She didn't know about this. For many years they did not meet each other. For many years, they were just like online, texting and calling and stuff. And that too, in the beginning, he love bombed her like anything, like, until she completely, deeply and madly fell in love with him. He put all his energy, and the moment he knew the ball was in his court, he chose to shut the door on her, and he just walked away, and he married someone else. It's not even like he was in love with her or something. He married someone else because of a lot of different reasons, and he was not reliable. You know what I mean? Somebody that does not even take a stand for himself, who does not know what he needs in life, and who's always dancing to the tune of others. How do you trust somebody like that? You cannot do that, right? He ended up betraying her. He made a bigger mess in her life, because she, as I said, she gave her all. And this might be the story of many people that's listening. And I just want to say this: when she was with Dom, when Daisy was with Dom, she did not know the tomorrow. And things ended up, and they ended up splitting with each other. And so she was able to see that this is the reality behind that person. What I want to say is, we cannot see our tomorrow. We are too caught up in the now sometimes, like experiencing all these beautiful things, not wanting to let go of things, thinking something is extremely perfect for us, because we don't know, the tomorrow might bring something extremely amazing. You know what I mean? Like, there might be something beautiful. There might be an angel waiting for you, right? The next person you're in love with might be an angel that loves you so much, that understands you like anything. But we have not seen this, right? So we keep doubting the tomorrow. We're scared of the tomorrow. We're scared of letting go of things in the now. But, whatever you want to call it, God, angel, heavens, the divine, whatever you want to call it, or if you just want to call it a force, or your own subconscious mind, they love you more than you know. They love you more than you can understand it. And that's why they saved you in these moments. And this is the story of many people. You know, you realized it after a while that, okay, this person was not right for me, because I deserve better. And that person is a trash. And that person is trash because, I'm not saying they're literally trash. What I mean is, the way they treat somebody versus the way they think of themselves. And Dom, Daisy did not know about these things, but Dom was secretly a narcissist. He held himself too high, like, but trust me, Daisy is amazing. Daisy is a goddess. If Dom was a narcissist, she's a goddess, but she didn't know her powers. You understand this? So the divine showed her that she's meant for more, she's meant for better. Even with David, the same thing happened, because sometimes what feels good for us is not necessarily good for us. It feels good, but it's not good in reality. So sometimes people are not meant for each other for many reasons, and that's why we end up missing each other. I hope this video helps you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and bye.